Welcome back, everybody. Michael Ofido. Welcome to the Luxury Listing Specialist Podcast. I'm your host. If you have any questions, please shoot me a note, shoot me an email, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com. And if you have a topic you'd like us to talk about, or you want to nominate somebody as a guest, please just shoot me a note, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com. So this episode, I'm really excited about today's guest. And before I introduce Jordan, just a couple things. If you are getting value from this podcast or previous podcast, please leave us a like, leave us a review. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, you name it. And we can always use more reviews, more likes, more comments. So I'd appreciate that. And for those of you that are committed to increasing your average sale price, check out the Lux designation. Go to luxurylistingspecialist.com, luxurylistingspecialist.com. At the time of this filming, we're going to be doing another in-person live event. We're looking forward to it. End of May 2021, we're going to be in Napa Valley doing our training, our designation training in front of 50 top luxury agents that are coming in from all parts of the country, and it's going to be held at a winery. You can check that out, luxurydesignation.com, luxurydesignation.com. Let's get right into today's guest. And a friend of mine, I've met him through various conferences. At the Keller Williams Family Reunion is the first time Jordan and I met, but I have Jordan Stuart here. Jordan is a licensed agent, and he's also the founder of the Next Move Network. And I'll let Jordan kind of describe what the Next Move Network is as it's continuing to expand. Initially, it was really around athletes and coaches, but welcome, Jordan.
Thank you, Michael. It's always a pleasure.
I appreciate it. So tell everybody a little bit about you and a little bit about Next Move.
Yeah, so I am a licensed realtor with Keller Williams here in Washington, D.C. market. I service Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. I have a team here that I lead of a small team of agents and an admin that we transact real estate locally, listings, luxury listings, first-time home buyers, you name it, across the spectrum. The reason why we are connected, Michael, is from a larger perspective, looking at the idea of collaborating with other high-level professionals in the real estate space across the country has always been a passion of mine. And staying hyper-local to me in the moving trends of how real estate operates, referral opportunities, to me is a little bit short-sighted. So I started working in a very niche space in DC. I started working with a number of professional athletes here locally on some of the teams. We have, I would call it 6 major teams here: the football, basketball, baseball, NHL, hockey, Washington Mystics, DC United, I would say, are the big 6 here. And there's always housing needs there. So it's anything from furnished rentals to high dollar purchases that are all discreet, private. You don't want to reveal where athletes are living for various reasons, mostly to protect their privacy from being a high profile individual. So basically took a business model of how I operate locally, and I started finding other real estate professionals around the country that also operate in the space. For example, Michael, I know you do in Chicago, and we can share those best practices and also create a trusted referral system that's a collaborative. When I have clients that are relocating to your area, I know that I can immediately count on you to handle that from a professional standpoint. So in a nutshell, we have relationships in every major market. We also have relationships in some of the secondary and tertiary markets. We have a presence in college towns, handling some head coaches among the athletic departments, because there's also a lot of relocation there, and some assistant coaches as well. So it's fun. There's definitely some pain points. It's not always about chasing the commission, because that's not necessarily what's driving the kind of the activity. It's prioritizing the relationship first and then understanding that there is some monetization of that between what you're able to do directly with the client and potentially who they're introducing you to that can build out your business.
So, first off, I'm a big fan of what you've done, what you've built. There's some really great network of top agents there, and our listeners range from in the United States to Canada to we have listeners globally, and some are newer agents, some are seasoned veteran rock star agents. So I'd like to kind of talk to you about, some do's and some don'ts and some suggestions and tips. We always tell the listeners, if you get one or two nuggets that you can implement into your business, then this episode was worth it. So that's my goal. Of course, I want to under promise and over deliver. So if you don't mind, me getting into some meat and potato questions about not necessarily just next move, but more importantly, hey, I'm an agent, I'm a team leader, I'm a broker owner. I might not be in a major city. I might be in Boise, Idaho, or I might be in, Davenport, Iowa, but I might be in an area where there are professional sports teams, whether it be major league or minor league teams. So let me just dive right in. So first off, what advice, and maybe sometimes the advice could be what not to do. So maybe we'll start there. What common mistakes or better said, what shouldn't an agent, a team leader, or broker do when it comes to either working, maybe they are actively working with an athlete, whether it be an active athlete, a retired athlete, or maybe a coach. What I guess, what shouldn't they do?
I think you stick to what works for you. So everybody's gotten to this position um, that they're operating with clients that want to work with them. So when you work with an athlete, it's understanding that they're looking to you to be the trusted expert in the situation. So immediately what their needs are, what they're looking to do, how you communicate with them should not be any different than how you treat your regular clients. So we're looking at a kind of how have you gotten to your career and how have you communicated and been authentic and stayed within budget, understood what the do's and don'ts are from what they're looking for. And I think that you need to keep that mentality and just translate it to a more high profile client. There's no benefit to switching up how you're doing things. So just because you know somebody is high profile and they make good money and they could potentially afford more, don't immediately try to upsell the person. If they need to rent something, if that's what the ask is, go out and find something for them to rent. Maybe have like the option of if they want to purchase something, if it makes sense, if they're going to be in the area for 3 to 4 years guaranteed. I do have a couple clients that have come to me that have multi-year deals, and they're so used to renting that that's kind of the first conversation we have. And then maybe at that point we present an option. Hey, maybe you want to think about establishing a little bit more of a permanent situation in this area. But for the most part, the number one mistake is not listening to your client, just like with any client that you have, and trying to do something that they're not necessarily comfortable doing or that they didn't ask you to do. So you never want to take the approach of kind of do something and then ask forgiveness later. That's not gonna work. It's immediately going to be brought to the forefront and brought to your attention, and it's going to take away any trust that you've built with that particular person. So I
So,
say
so,
it,
so what
yeah,
I hear you saying is, be an advisor, be a consultant, don't be a salesperson. And this is whether it be an athlete, a coach, or your regular clientele. The best way to
correct.
get referrals, right, is be that trusted advisor. Don't sell them something that isn't what they want. And if they tell you they think they should buy, but in your mind you think they should perhaps rent, then advise them on that as well, correct?
Yeah, and your job is to get them a place to live. It's that simple. That's your job. Once you try to establish the friendship type situation, it gets a little bit of a gray area. If you pull your camera out and videotape a high profile client because you want to show your friends what's going on and who you're with, I mean, that's the quickest exit to the situation. It's dangerous, and it's also could get you in a lot of trouble. But it also will create a huge pain point. So you want to just move forward. You are the housing expert. That's what you were brought in to do. It's okay to not continue on and go out to dinner with everybody and kind of insert yourself into situations that you might not be ready for. Um, if the focus needs to be on the house or the
Mhm.
apartment, whatever it is, that's the focus. That's your job. You're communicating with the other side. You're protecting the identity if you need to. You should be hypersensitive to the fact that you have a high profile client with you, and you need to ensure that that person's well-being and satisfaction is first and foremost.
So you brought up a bunch of great points there. And one I want to circle back to, Jordan, was the confidentiality aspect of it, right? So, I use the term left brain and right brain. There's a lot of left brain, methodical, analytical buyers and sellers out there. And then there's your right brain, right? Using the disc personality, high I, right? High I, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Those are the agents that, take selfies with their clients. They go have drinks. If that's your personality type, you want to be really extra cautious. You can't make the assumption that you got to almost make the assumption that your client wants to stay low profile and they're not going to be okay with that. So talk to me about those conversations, which is kind of a segue into my next question is, if you feel like you've done a great job for your client, whether they be high profile or not, maybe they're just well connected. They're not even an athlete or a coach, but they're well connected. Um, what words of recommendation or best practices would you recommend to get an endorsement or a testimonial from perhaps that athlete or that coach if you feel like you've over delivered?
Yeah. Simply make sure the deal is done. Let's start there. If you've just started working with a client, would you ask for a testimonial in the second meeting when you're house hunting? Probably not, right? So the same rule applies. You want to get all the way through the process. You want to make sure that there's a closing that happens. Say at a closing, once you get the keys, if it's a purchase, you get a photo with your client, just like you would with a lot of closings. So you're at the finish line at that point. You've done your job, what you've been hired to do. It's appropriate to say, "Hey, let's celebrate this a little bit. Here's a Ring doorbell that you can put on your new house to make sure your fans aren't knocking on the door if they figure out where you live."
Hmm.
That's a
Hmm.
little in, that's a go-to gift for me if you're wondering about that.
Nice, nice.
So alcohol with athletes, I mean, you want to be aware of the fact that maybe that's not the best idea.
Sure, sure.
But you take a picture and you basically say, "Hey, if you don't mind, I'd love to promote the fact that we close this deal together. It would mean a lot to me. And if you had maybe a short testimonial that you wanted to offer, I would be extremely grateful for that." Other times, I actually write the testimonial and have the client approve it because it's just very simple, and they say, "Yeah, that looks great, Jordan. That works for me." Again, you're not asking for forgiveness. You're basically asking to see if this is appropriate. And some people say no. They say, "You did a great job, but I don't really need to have everybody in my business, so
Yep.
not necessary." And if that's the answer, that's the answer, and that's
Sure,
it.
sure. Got
So
to respect that answer.
you respect it.
Mhm.
So,
Talk to
but
me. Talk to me about the what keeps an athlete or a coach awake at night. So, what I mean by that is traded, cut, didn't get the contract they wanted, are in a city that they don't know anything about. Talk to me about, what goes on with the significant other, the wives, the families. Talk to me about that, because that's something that doesn't get talked much when we're talking real estate and relocation in particular, dealing with, for this uh, athletes.
Housing is extremely important, is what it is. That's the sanctuary. That's where the privacy is. So housing is it's a huge deal. So I look at that and I look at what's the driver of how this person is going to turn off their brain, because there's such an elite talent in, say, a sport. Turning off that brain is going to be putting them into a situation that's really important from a home life perspective. If there's space for kids, if there's a 3-car garage, if it's a gated community, if there's a private backyard, all this is important and matters. So you need to go into a search where you can't just send a list of properties that you haven't vetted. Your job is to get ahead of the game and make sure those are vetted, and then also have relationships within your community that can seek out specific properties that may appeal to your client that may not be readily available for their search. Like, that's what your value is as a professional in real estate. It's knowing who your client is, knowing who the other agents are in the market that have the inventory, and potentially go seek them out to make a private deal. Very tricky in 2021 with the boom of
Shortage of
what's
properties.
going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's different. I mean, you're always adapting to the environment. So that's not as easy as it was, let's just say, 2 years ago.
Mhm, mhm.
But it doesn't mean you shouldn't keep offering that value.
Yeah.
So, and then,
So-
Michael, things like other tips, like keep a clean car, because I've had more than one occasion where I show up at a hotel and somebody's jumping in my front seat without me even thinking about that was an option. Like, I'm driving. Keep that car clean. It sounds silly, but you don't want to be having papers and whatever, water bottles and anything that's
Kids' toys.
kids. Yeah, crumbs in my car with 3 kids. Even taking car seats out. If you have children, we all have situations where we're required to safely transport small children around. Like, take the car seats out before you go and see the client, because there may be multiple people that need to get into your vehicle. Which
Yeah,
is
that's a great point. They're not familiar with the area. Uh,
no.
So, the silver platter service, right? Silver platter service, it's no different for your top A-list clients, those that are listening. Again, with your top A-list clients, you treat them differently than everybody else. I mean, you treat everybody with respect, don't get me wrong, but go above and beyond, right? By doing some homework ahead of time. I always tell my staff, uh, whether it be a high net worth individual, a luxury buyer or seller, or an athlete, it's like, hey, their time is valuable. Like, we have to assume, like, they don't have the time to call the home inspection company and do all these. Like, you got to offer that silver platter service, that concierge type service. They're used to it, many times they're used to it because they have been on a pedestal, being, in the limelight, or being an athlete, or having agents. So you got to continue that silver platter service.
Yep. Don't overdo it though, Michael. So a common situation with someone like myself or you is, and you can relate to this, there's other people in our lives that I think would add value, but I don't necessarily want to cross pollinate away from the housing for, let's say, like um, a concierge type service that's not related to that person getting a home. And what I mean by that is, I'm approached by people that have good businesses. They offer opportunities that could potentially be taken advantage of in a positive way by our housing clients. But I have to be very careful about how I present that. because the guard is always up. So even if I'm not have no stake in that business, I'm not being compensated for recommending anything, or as simple as me trying to like set up a car service or something, like you name it, we're putting our name and our brand behind that. It's gonna make us look very bad if that doesn't work out the way that we think it is. And I make the correlation in real estate: when you recommend a contractor to one of your buyers and that contractor stops showing up, guess who's getting the phone call?
Mhm.
Me. And that becomes my problem when I have no control over what a contractor is doing when they take payment to redo a kitchen and then they just don't come back.
Yeah.
So it ruins the relationship. And I would say, if you wanted to get involved with this particular business, you should focus on yourself and not what everybody else can do when you get the relationship. You should be focused on what can you do for that client, and don't worry about who you can introduce that person to. It's not, it's irrelevant, and it's only going to cause you problems, and it's your quickest exit point again to this business. Don't get overexcited, because people get really excited if they work with a Bears player, right? Do the job, just you. Don't worry about all that other stuff. That'll work itself out when it's appropriate.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's a great point with all your clients, right? If you refer someone and they do a bad job, it's a negative reflection on you. I mean, I just referred a mover to 3 clients that were selling. Unfortunately, a couple of them got out of Illinois, like a lot of people right now, and they had an amazing experience. And I just told Greg, I said, thanks for doing a great job, doing what you say you're going to do, because it's a positive reflection on me. But it's no different if it was negative. So those are some really great points. Talk to me. Well, before we do that, again, if you have any comments, any questions, for those of you that are listening to the replay, shoot me an email, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com. And Jordan, what's your email too? And we'll give it out at the end again, but what's your email in case somebody has a question for you?
Yeah, it's Jordan, Jordan, at makethenextmove.com.
Jordan at makethenextmove.com.
Yep.
Named after greatness, the GOAT, right? Greatest of
No,
all time, Michael
no.
Jordan, man.
I thought I would
So
be an NBA player by being named Jordan, but that didn't work out for me.
uh, so again, if you guys have comments, shoot me a note, shoot Jordan a note. If you're getting value from this, please let us know. Again, we greatly appreciate the feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. All right, so Next Move originally was athletes and coaches, and you're expanding a little bit. Talk to the listeners a little bit about what you're doing with the military now.
Right. So we looked at what was successful with Next Move with the sports and entertainment world. And what we found was, and we being myself and a couple other executive team members that work on this on a daily basis, the value and talent and differentiation among real estate professionals around the country is impressive. So it became to the point where we kept getting opportunities for referrals out of markets: Charleston, South Carolina to Albany, New York, Savannah, Georgia to Miami, Florida, Austin, Texas to Oklahoma City. Like, it wasn't necessarily an athlete on the move, but because of the fact that we were a trusted group, the referrals were being sent between the agents, because we were familiar with each other and we have specific ways we communicate privately that get people knowing that they have a trusted resource in pretty much every city. So this is different than Facebook. It's different than just meeting people at events. That's important, but this is more in depth. And we decided that why don't we expand this to like a military piece with the relocation of U.S. service members around the country. So we essentially took this model and we've created a military model where mostly veterans, military spouses real estate professionals that have background in military, understand PCS, understand the needs of moving to one location out of necessity and then buying a property there and potentially selling in a short amount of time. How can we best serve that specific life cycle? So we've carried over Next Move into the military space. If any of the listeners on this podcast work heavily with military clients, VA loans, incentive programs, near military installations, I'd love to connect with them, because that's becoming a pretty major source of business. And also the same concept that you want to ensure that you're recommending a professional that's really comfortable in that area.
That's great. That's awesome. So athletes, coaches, military, uh, makethenextmove.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. Makethenextmove.com is the website. My Instagram is nextmovejordan. So nextmove in my first name. Pretty active on social media, as I recommend everybody should be. That's one more tip, Michael. Make sure that when people Google your name, that your brand is well represented, how you want it to be. And that's going to be the first impression before anybody even contacts you, especially in this space. They're going to see what you're doing with how you're presenting yourself online. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, website, you name it. I know, Michael, you have an amazing web presence, and it's an immediate it's an immediate like credibility,
Yeah, people are going to judge you. People are going to judge you based on your social media presence, your online presence. I call it SWOT analysis. You've heard that: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So, if I was writing an essay, I wouldn't proof my own essay. I'd have others look at it, right? So it's one thing for you to look at your website, you look at your LinkedIn, your Instagram, but it's tougher for you to poke holes in it. So bring on a trusted, resource, whether it be a top agent in your market, whether it be someone that you like, and you trust, that's going to shoot it to you straight, and have them poke holes in your online presence. Because and you got to let them know, be honest. I'm trying to make myself better. Do you see any inconsistencies with the branding, the message, the photos? Some of the ladies, some of the gentlemen listening to this podcast, you have your glamour shots from the 1990s. So like, update your photos, make sure your contact information is correct. Is there consistency with your branding, your colors, your logos? Those are very important things. And Jordan, you hit the nail on the head. You might not be a LinkedIn person, but guess what? The person that is looking you up LinkedIn might be important to them. So if your profile is not optimized, if there's nothing out there, it's not filled out, that might be important to them, even if you don't think it's important. So you need to optimize your various platforms.
Yep. And LinkedIn has an SEO to it, search engine optimization. If you Google almost anybody's name, LinkedIn, for free, by the way, it's free, that's going to be the first search result that comes up. I do it all the time. I Google someone's name, boom, first result, LinkedIn. This person is head of development for X business. They create that content, and it's search engine optimized for me to see that. It's an easy way for you to basically showcase, I'm an expert in this particular real estate division of Davenport, Iowa.
Yeah.
So.
Great point. Last tip question: any lead sources you have for agents looking in their market to perhaps dive into and break into working with athletes and coaches?
It's a good question. Myself is number one. So, no, but seriously, there's different, and I'm not saying this in jest. I'm saying this, I'm dead serious about this. So the people that guide the talent are the ones that you need to get to know. They are heavy decision makers, and there's not a big presence. Sometimes it's hard to find, but if you look for that, if you're looking for a specific relationship with somebody locally, go into the player's social media and go through the photos and find a manager of some sort that they're in a photo with, that they're tagging on Instagram or whatever it may be, and go follow that person and potentially reach out to them, because they're going to be more accessible and they're also going to be more appropriate from a business perspective. And you might not like what you hear sometimes when you do speak to that person. They may already have somebody that they're not interested in meeting you, and don't take that personally. It's not like a newfangled concept that a lot of managers already have pre-existing relationships in the space. But
Sure.
I wouldn't necessarily treat that as a dead end. I would treat that as potentially, how do I find other, other people that may not have those relationships, and figure out how it's built, um, and just basically continue to go down the path of trying to meet the people that can potentially make some introductions there without sounding over salesy, just
Mhm.
essentially representing yourself really professionally.
Yeah, great words of advice. Again, anybody that wants more information, go to makethenextmove.com and or send Jordan an email, Jordan at makethenextmove, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
All right. Appreciate your time and your expertise again, Jordan.
Thank you.
Again, folks, thank you for listening to Luxury Listing Specialist. Again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com. Keep raising the bar in real estate. For those of you that are looking to increase your average sale price and you're really committed to it, check out luxurylistingspecialist.com. Again, our designation has 0 previous luxury sales requirements. So literally, you can be certified as a luxury specialist through going through our 16-module online program. And we are going to be doing more face-to-face live programs as more people are comfortable traveling, that sort of thing. So make somebody's day, prove others wrong. Michael LaFido, Jordan, I appreciate what you're doing, and make it a great day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.